If you're a small business are trying to save time and money by automating your time tracking and time reporting systems, then you've come to the right place. In this video, I'm going to break down how you can extract your time tracking data from your time tracking software, convert it and put it into a smart database like SmartSuite to make your information more easily accessible and get the exact information that you need when you need it. Imagine knowing instantly how much you're billing clients and how much you're having to pay your employees without having to lift as much as a finger. So if you want to get this automation seamlessly integrated into your business, let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Eric with SmartSuite Solutions. I help save people time from doing what they hate so they can focus on what they love by implementing automated no-code solutions. And like I said in the intro, I am going to be breaking down how you can extract time reports from your time trackers like Toggl with Make.com to automate this whole process and get that out of your head. But before I get started, I want to invite you to a free consultation. I understand that if you are already very busy, the idea of trying to add something on can be daunting. And like I said, I totally get that. But if you are ready to take the next step and want to try and get started automating as quickly as possible, feel free to book a free 30-minute consultation with me. There are no strings attached. Like I said, I am just trying to see how many people I can help getting these initial steps to understand how much they can start automating in their business. So if that is of interest, please head to my website, solvecyclesolutions.com/30-minutes, or scan the QR code that's floating somewhere around my head, and you can get booked and see how much time you can save in those 30 minutes. So now that we have that housekeeping out of the way, let's hop into my screen, and I want to address a couple of questions. You can see that I am using this time tracker called Toggl. This is something that I've been using since 2019, and it is a very robust time tracking system that allows me to keep track of clients, projects, and you can see how data is being analyzed. I can pull up reports here, and I can filter by specific categories, by dates, and I'm able to track time here and have all that data sitting in one tool. Now, you may be asking yourself, if Toggl is such a great tool to collect all this information and organize it, why would I want to go about adding extra steps of migrating this data somewhere else where I have to build things in a new system? And to be perfectly honest, I didn't really prioritize that until very recently, because I realized how much time I was actually spending inside of Toggl. Now, granted, it doesn't sound like a lot at first glance, but if I'm spending 20 minutes trying to just pull up all the data for different clients that I've been working with over the past couple of months, or even just trying to track specific retainers that I may be working with over a series of months, that can get a little confusing, and I'm not able to quickly identify that information. And that's really the other big thing. If information is just sitting inside of Toggl, I'm not really utilizing it. If I pull this out into where my source of truth is, which in this case is SmartSuite, I'm able to do a lot more with that information, and I can have that data talk to my other software so that I don't have to keep moving information from Toggl into things like my invoice trackers. And another reason is that Toggl is so great because of the free platform that it has. And yes, there are premium features that you can use. You can see that they are testing out beta testing invoices, they have billable rates, and there are certain things that you can integrate natively at the premium level. Thankfully, since Toggl has an API key, I'm able to link this to Make.com to extract this data. So I'm not having to pay for an additional software that I only need to use one key feature on. So instead, what I ideally would like to have is a place to import my time that can automatically link itself to the different clients that I'm working with, and then from there build and be able to see things like how can I use this data to inform me when I'm hitting certain retainers, or even going so far as to automate billing for me so I don't have to do any of this in the future or have to accidentally make mistakes with tracking the amount of time. This system that I have allows me to be more accurate and more responsive to seeing the numbers that I have instead of trying to remember specific client details or when I was billing for certain hours over the course of a month and when that was on a previous invoice. Looking inside of SmartSuite, I have a very basic field layout that currently just has a title that is automated to automatically generate based off a client name and a specific task. We have the task end date, which I'll get into that in a little bit further. Total hours completed. Additionally, I'm able to link to different projects that I'm working with, as well as being able to pull up client names with a lookup field. So I'll show you how the finished product looks. I kind of just want to have you keep this in mind. Of course, you can customize this to whatever your needs are depending on the software that you use. But for me, I'm going to be pulling specific data out of Make that I've already pre-mapped. I've already gone ahead and built out this automation because there is one trick that is a little weird. And as I was testing this before recording this video, I want to emphasize that this is kind of a special thing you need to pay attention to. Looking in my Make screen, you'll see that I've already run this automation and it looks like it worked, but it actually didn't. And I figured what's the best way to approach this is look at how I've set this up so that you can build this for yourself. And from there, I'm going to run the test and show you what went wrong and why this mapped the way it did and how we can fix that. So the first thing that you'll see is that Toggl has a lot of their information is set by polling triggers. So I initially set this up to do a daily poll of time reports at the end of the day. So to get started, you can search for Toggl and you'll see down at the bottom there is a get a detailed report. This is the same thing that I have here. And if I were to set this up, and I'm going to just click and drag this timer here, you'll see that initially it's going to ask for your connection. One thing I will add, at the time of this recording, I was trying to set something up with a different test account, but I was not able to integrate that because Toggl recently updated their API connections and Make is trying to get that updated. This may not work for you initially. I looked through the forums. It does seem that Make is aware of this and they're trying to update this. Unfortunately, this is just one of those things that happens with connections, is that as security gets updated and as things change, certain softwares need to be updated around the same time. So I am leaving this with an existing software that I already use or a connection that I already have, and this should work for you once those automations are set up. If you see the error code, I believe it's 418, then that just means that it's still not working properly. So not a great pitch to start in the middle of this, but again, this is the tool that I use and I want to show you this so that you can use this with your software. Toggl isn't the only time tracker that is being used with Make. So this is more just showing you how you can start extracting some of this data. So here with the user agent, this is basically just asking what is the email address you want to be notified of if something goes wrong. So I will put in my email address here. It's going to ask for your workspace ID. You can customize the specific data that you are trying to pull out of Toggl based on very different criteria. So you could go by project IDs. So certain projects you're wanting to get track of the time for. Additionally, some of these things I have closed out because it has private data, but you have client IDs, so you could pull based on specific clients, user IDs based on different people in your database. So if you have multiple people that you work with, you could, in theory, pull their information out and map it into their profiles in SmartSuite or a different database to consolidate how much time they worked over the course of the month. However, for me, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to click this tag that I've set called example client. These are just some sample data that you saw in that other Toggl setup for Bob's Burgers, Strickland Propane, and even Moe's Tavern, and some things from SolveCycle. Once I have my criteria set, I need to then specify what dates I am looking for inside of Toggl to collect this data. So this can get a little tricky because if you are not formatting the dates right, it can mess up or it may potentially miss time. So what I'm going to do here is you want to start really working from the until section. So this is saying, when is this being run? So I'm going to set this as now, saying so from any point when this automation is run, we're going to look at from the specific criteria that we want until now. Because what we're going to do is we're going to set a polling trigger so that it runs at the same time every night to collect this information basically within the past 24 hours. So looking back in make.com, what I actually want to do is say, in this case, I'm going to say from the past Monday, I'm going to be collecting this information. Now, you can formulate this as well to make it a little bit nicer and easier to make a recurring event. So I'm going to hit this now button, but then I'm going to add days here, which basically allows me to add or subtract a number of days so that the system knows to look forward. Either if I add, in this case, I'm going to say -5, it knows to move back 5 days from now. So this will be on the 10th, hopefully. And then it will collect all that information from there. That's really all I need to do. I can also get more refined. So if I want to set specific times for when we are looking at, we can set hours. As you can see, there's a lot of different ways to formulate this. So depending on what works best for you, I encourage you to play around with this yourself. So once I hit that, the last thing that I need to do is I need to make sure that the interval is happening at the specific time that I want. So in this case, I'm just going to set this as once, but if you want to do this as a days of the week, you could specify this. In this case, we could have it run Friday at 4:08 p.m. when time of I'm recording this. So if I hit that and then leave that, everything is connected, we could make that work properly. Instead, I'm going to drag this back over to the original automation, and I'm going to delete this module. Now, the other thing that I need to point out is that when this automation is run, you'll see that there's a lot of data that is pulling up here. So you see the different bundles and different amounts of data that we need to extract. One thing you may notice is that the specific time frame we're looking for is going to be called duration, DUR for short, but it's showing as this is, I believe, 6 million, which is definitely not the amount of time I spent working on this particular task. So what you need to be aware of is when you are pulling time out of Toggl from Make, that this can be set as milliseconds. So you need to be able to convert that. This can be the case with some other tools. Some other ones know to convert this already to minutes. This is just how the duration works for this particular tool. So you'll need to map the duration with this need to multiply this as a math expression, which is something that's built into Make so you can run special calculations as you need it. This allows us this 2.7778 e to the -7 allows us to run this advanced calculation. And from there, it's going to be set up as an array where we will bundle all this information for each particular task that we are pulling out of Toggl. So we'll need to make sure that we select the result. We'll need to select the description, the end, as well as the client and the project if you're wanting to map this data out. There's a lot of different info you can extract, but it's going to bundle that all into one array. And from there, we need to break this array out with an iterator, mapping that data here. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to run this SmartSuite automation that will create a record for every single piece of information that we are now putting into our time tracker. I have this set up under the task time tracker. I don't need to map the title, but one thing I want to emphasize here is that when I run this, when I set this up for the first time, and this is where my error occurred, is that I only had the option to map information from the array. I didn't have these bundle results pulling up for the iterator. So what I had to do was run this automation by itself. And if I were to do this again right now, you'll see that the time is going to be pulled, everything's going to map out, and it's going to produce these 9 specific tasks that I've done. Looking back, though, it's only producing the exact same record. It is the solve cycle solutions at 2.5 hours. It's linking and it's working properly, but it's not expressing all the different datas that I have because it's only mapping to one bundle that is being an output. So instead, once I have that run, I can then click here. I'm going to erase this information, and I'm going to put the description here from the iterator, not the array aggregator. I'm going to then hit this end date, which basically just allows me to confirm when this task was run and when it was stopped. So from there, I can hit the total completed hours. Again, I'm going to map this to the results. And then again, linking to projects, we are just going to map this. So for now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all of these records. And then we're going to run this one last time. You can see that some of this automation actually ran, but there was an error. So I want to take this as a chance to explain a little what happened. So you'll see there's this error code saying 404 message found, or 0 of 1 linked records for debt collecting. I set up a debt collecting task for, let's see, the solution. The description is debt collecting and is linked to project debt collecting. So let's see what, I don't have anything set up here. Now, if I had an error handling build, I would make it that we can create a new record. In this case, I think that there was actually an error because I had to migrate this to a separate task builder from the initial setup I originally had. I'm going to just put, I believe it was under this that I put debt collecting for Moe's Tavern. So let's try and run this again. And look at that. We have, it was supposed to be 9 pieces of information from this time report that I've done over the course of a week. And it's found the specific ones that met the criteria and then put that all into this particular task setup. Everything is linked with the client name. It's linked with projects. We're all set here. And if I look into the projects, you'll see that I'm able to quickly see at a glance what I have done with each client. And then inside of my CRM, I see the total amount of time that I have consolidated all of this together. So this is a very brief overview of how you can start utilizing this entire process inside of your own database and have your softwares effectively communicate with each other. This is going to be the basis of what I use for more complex videos in the next couple of weeks, as I want to show you how these can all be helpful to consolidate a lot of different aspects of your time that you think you can automate, but then can be put together to make a whole system that runs more efficiently and helps you save even more time. If you need help setting this up or want to learn more about how no code can save you time, don't forget about the free 30-minute consultation that I mentioned at the beginning of this call, and we can help you get this set up specifically if you would like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a ton of value out of this video. If you found this video useful, please subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the bottom of this video. But in the meantime, this is where I stop.